Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Cory, I'm doing okay. I'm sitting here. I've got my previews in my hand, and I'm reading this comic being solicited from Action Lab Entertainment called Ghoul Scouts. The Scout Handbook, Never Covered Adventures Like This. And if you allow me, I'll read the previews.
I'll allow it.
Something stranger than usual haunts Full Moon Hollow, paranormal capital of the world. Adults can't see it, can't remember it, or go crazy from it. So when zombies attack during the Hemlock County Scouting Jamboree, only a group of misfits can save the Hollow. Be prepared. Be very prepared. Well, that tells me absolutely nothing. You know, it's done by this here Mark Stegbauer and Steve Bryant. Why don't we get them on the line and ask them what this Ghoul Scout's all about?
Sure. We here at the Solitaire Rose Network, we have the power to do that. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. And to whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
This would be Mark Stegbauer.
Stegbauer.
So Joe screwed up that name. And who else?
Steve Bryant.
Joe, you're 2 for 2.
Oh, never was good with names ever since that Jock Kirby guy.
Jack Kirby?
Kirby. Sorry. And what people don't realize, if they haven't figured out from my brilliant foreshadowing, is these two are the creators of Ghoul Scouts, a new comic book coming from Action Lab. Number ones have been solicited, so call your comic shops and get on board. We thought we'd get these guys here and have them talk about their comic book a little bit.
And they're going to be at the SpringCon.
Yes, the MSP ComiCon 2016, May 14th and 15th, 2016, at the Minnesota State Fair Grandstand, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday. And you can get advance tickets now. All the details, www.mcbacomicons.com. Now, I know, Mark, you've been to the con before.
Oh, yeah. This will be my 24th appearance. My first was like 90 or 91. I can't remember which. But, yeah, I think it's like 90 or 91. And I've missed only like 2, maybe 3.
And how about you, Steve?
I'm a novice. This will be my first time there. I can't wait. Actually, Cory, you've tried to get me there a few times, but, you know, at the time I wouldn't have like a new book out or stuff like that. And Mark was kind enough to beg, borrow, steal, threaten, and blackmail people into letting me come. So it's great.
Well, it'll be great to have you here. Mark is back from the Thunderbird days. Mark, I have some sad news for you. There's the sad news music. Sad news, everybody. Have you heard about what's happening to the Thunderbird?
Yes, I have. I was like, I saw that a couple weeks ago, and I was like, no. It was bad enough when it was turning, into the Holiday Inn, and they got rid of all the cool stuff in there. But now that it's going to be like completely torn down, it's like, it's like those shows were so wacky and awesome.
To be fair, the Indian Native American stuff has been long gone, so pretty much they're just getting rid of a 1960s motel. Yeah.
But that's what made that place. I still remember the first year I came up, Tim Truman was there, and Tim being, the total, Native American aficionado and appreciator that he is, thought that place was like the coolest thing he had ever seen. He was like, I still remember it was like, the Friday night before the show, and we were all going to get dinner or something, or have a drink at the bar, and he's all, this is like the best hotel I've ever seen in my entire life. He said, if I could take this back with me to Virginia, this would be like the best thing ever. He just loved it, and everyone was. I can't remember who it was. One of the other original guys, was like telling him was kind of looking at him like, dude, it's only a hotel. Yeah. But if Tim could have lived there, he would have.
So Mark has been with us for years and years and years, and this is Steve's first time. But I want to talk a little about Ghoul Scouts. And first off, kudos on the name, because it's one of those names that when I heard it, first thing that popped into my head is, how come no one's ever thought of that before?
Well, yeah, we did a search for it, and there were no comics registered with that. And to the best of my knowledge, it's been used for other things that seem to be dormant now. So we lucked out.
Well, first off, how did you two hook up to do this, and then where did the idea come from?
You wanted to answer the first part, Mark?
Well, Steve and I had known each other, last couple of years through mutual friends and stuff, and see each other at cons. And Steve had asked me, it's like, hey, you want to ink something I'm working on, another project, and I'm like, sure. And it was, that started to evolve, and then he said, well, I've got this other thing I'm doing, and it's an all ages book, and I think it'd be great for for doing the art on it. And, would you like to do it? And I'm like, okay. And he sent me the pitch on it. I'm kind of reading it. I'm like, okay, this would be kind of cool. This is up my alley. I've drawn enough zombies and other stuff the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's kind of in my wheelhouse. And, I like all ages books and stuff. So after that, it was just like, okay, let's just do this.
So it sounds like, Steve, this was kind of your idea to start with.
Yeah, I came up with the initial idea, but I need to stress the reason why I wanted Mark to answer it first is comics, it's a visual medium. The art is always going to be the heavy lifting. So I came up with the initial idea, but this book would not be what it is if Mark wasn't on here, and I'm not trying to sound like a suck-up. But long story short, I was just kind of chatting one time over email with a friend of mine back in, I think it was 2007, talking about our weekends, and she had been playing Dead Rising, and, I was newly divorced, and all I had been doing on the weekends when I don't have my son was just drawing comics. So I made a joke about it being a well-rounded life. She's like, yeah, zombie killing is well-rounded. And I said, well, yeah, it's in my son's Cub Scout handbook, page 180 or something like that. And it was a big laugh. And then, kind of the light bulb goes off, ding. And, oh, wow, Scouts versus zombies. And, as the idea developed, it became more than just zombies, kind of turning it into, I'm a sucker for like quirky TV towns. So, kind of making it a supernatural town, where anything could happen, opened the door for a lot of other stuff. And, originally it was going to be called Zomboy Scouts. And, it changed about halfway through Mark and I working on the pitch. Right, Mark? Yeah,
that was probably, I think we probably had, like almost half the first issue kind of drawn, just so we, it's like, okay, let's, start at least working on an issue so we have, some art for a pitch. And I remember you were like going, it's like you had sent me like a email link or something that was like that they were making a movie with that title.
Yeah, Scouts versus Zombies. But, the tone of that movie was totally different from what we did. So I feel like we, there have been all kinds of things that have kind of hit like right around what we're doing. There's a book out of Oni, and then, Boom Studios has Lumberjanes, but none of them really are doing the tone that we do. So I feel like we're still safe, and we're contributing something different to the conversation,
Yeah, I mean, that's totally, because, I mean, if you look at all because I remember we saw that, like, there was the actual, I think the original thing was, there was a movie that was going to be called Zomboy Scouts, and they were talking about some kid actor who had been in something that he was, they signed this person for the movie, blah, blah, blah. And then it was, I think also, too, we had seen, it's like, here was that, there was some other comic, too, coming out that was all like a Scouts versus Zombies that was totally like, okay, yeah, this is totally not all ages, And we were just like, yeah, I think we're kind of safe with what we want to do here.
Plus, Ghoul Scouts gave us the opportunity to kind of mix up the genders and stuff, so that was kind of nice.
Now, you said this is all ages?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Rated E for everyone via Action Lab's rating policy.
Now, Action Lab is one of the smaller publishers, but I noticed that they've been growing a lot lately. What was it about them that made you say, oh, these are the guys?
Do you want to field that, Mark, or do you want me to?
Well, why don't you start off, and I can always add to it. So
okay. We've known the guys for years. For me, dating back to the Comic Geek Speak message boards, probably in like 2007, 2008. Dave Dwanch was on there, and Sean Pryor and Sean Gabarin. So, I would see the guys at shows a lot, and as the line has been expanding, they've just been doing more and more exciting things. But the most exciting thing, to my mind, that they do is, even though they have a few licensed books, they're still driven almost entirely by creator-owned material. Yeah. And you don't want to get lost in the shuffle with a million different movie crossovers and stuff like that. So it's kind of nice to be with someone that specifically wants to make creator-owned books.
Yeah, and I know for me too, it's like I was, I knew Jeremy Dale, rest in peace.
Oh yeah,
good guy. I'd known him, through like places like DeviantArt and stuff like that, and he and I would talk at shows and chit chat about stuff. And then his book, Skyward, that he was working on, his creator-owned book, was one of the first ones that Action Lab had picked up, and I had talked to him at C2E2 like 2 years ago, and I said, hey, how are things going? And he was all, I told him, it's like, yeah, I'm, got a book, something, hoping to pitch to Action Lab, a couple other people, and he said, if you can get it at Action Lab, man, that'd be great, because they're so open to ideas and suggestions, and they really want to push to show your book in the best light, and promote it. And he said they're just a great group of people. And his wife, Kelly, ended up doing some, marketing, being part of their marketing team. And I mean, for us getting, picked up by Action Lab, I mean, they were probably my number one choice of, all the people out there who would, look at our book and probably appreciate and understand, what we were going for, and to have them, be our publisher for me was like, okay, we're good. I'm totally on board with it. So that was awesome when Steven said, yeah, they want to publish it, and I was just like, giddy for like 3 days.
Is this an ongoing or a mini-series?
It's the first of hopefully a series of miniseries. Well, we're proceeding like it's the first of many miniseries, because I just sent Mark the script for the second series.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're pretty much like going. It's like, hey, we want to do the stories whether you guys want to pick them up or not. But I have a feeling that they will probably go, well, since we did the first, we might as well do the second. At least I'm hoping they're going to think that way. You never know, but we're crossing our fingers.
Well, I'm really I hope that sales are not so bad that it would cause them to tank. Because I in talking with them, they seem really supportive of books finding an audience. So, I took a leap of faith and just wrote Series 2 and sent it to Mark, and that's the heavy lifting. But if he's in, we're going to make this happen, come hell or high water.
Now, Steve, I know your work mostly from what you draw.
Yes.
So is it different stepping away from the art and having someone else draw it? And do you ever, as much as I love Mark's stuff, there are probably times when you go, wait a minute, I saw it differently in my head. How do you handle that aspect of letting the reins loose?
The coolest thing I have ever, the best script I have ever seen was when I was first working on samples. One of my heroes is Mark Schultz, who writes and draws Xenozoic, formerly for Kitchen Sink. Now it's at Flesk Publications. But he had written a bunch of stuff like at Dark Horse, like in the Predator line and the Alien line and stuff like that. And Mark had written a script for a Predator series called Hell and High Water that I wanted to work on as a sample. So I contacted him through a mutual friend, and after I got the script, I talked with him a little bit because he was generous enough to share it. And his script it just tells you what needs to be there. And he said, as an artist, I hate having other people dictate to me, POV and stuff like that unless it's absolutely necessary. And so that was like when I first started writing stuff for myself. I tried to leave the script open and make storytelling decisions when I draw it. So I try to not have a lot of those preconceptions. It may even frustrate Mark sometimes because I'm sure I write probably the loosest scripts he's seen, because it'll be like, okay, 2 pages, they're fighting. At the last panel of the second page, here's where they need to end up. Go. And he's always solved it really, really elegantly and just things that I hadn't thought of. So just trying to approach it from the perspective of how I would like to draw something. I don't usually get a lot of those, oh, I wish I'd drawn it this way. It's truly a liberating experience to get these pages in that are just beautiful. They're great, and then we send them to Jason, who colors them, and they're beautiful. So it's kind of fun to not have to, spend 6 or 8 or 12 or 16 hours on a page, and to just, send off a script, and suddenly I'm lettering it, a few weeks later.
Now, Mark, when you started, you worked at Marvel, and Marvel was kind of notorious at the time for what was known as the Marvel method. What do you like between the outlines you used to get and then fully scripting and also doing your own stuff? Which works best for you as you're trying to draw this stuff?
Well, it's weird because, when I started out with Marvel, I was mostly doing just inking. I didn't really start even drawing my own comics until I really started doing my Dr. Goyle stuff just, a few years ago. I was always kind of, playing around back and forth with trying to do some penciling, and it got to the point where it's like, what, why don't I just not, why don't I just start drawing my own stuff, my own ideas and doing that. But I think it's, when I'm writing Dr. Goyle myself to draw, I have a pretty, the plot going on, just kind of some basic panel descriptions. I don't even, have camera angles because it's like, well, I'm drawing this myself, so I don't have to have a whole lot of detail, and then I'll have the script in with it. But I think it's nice. I really like how, Steve's scripts will have everything there, but it's also like it's totally open for me to do however I want. And I've, a couple other, writers who I've been working with recently are the same way. They will give me some ideas, if it's a little more detailed, of like, here's the, if it's taking place in this sort of setting, in this building, here's kind of what I want it kind of based on, such and such. But as far as, the scripts from Steve, they're all, everything is there, but it's like, here's, he gives me some direction of, in certain scenes, of what he kind of wants out of it, but for the most part, it's all up to me to do whatever I want with it. I think that's great because it's really pushing me, as someone who hasn't had a lot of experience as a penciler, to really come up with, cool and interesting camera angles and, ways to create drama through lighting and things like that. So to really kind of push myself as a storyteller.
And the first issue has been, the solicitations done. When does it actually hit stores?
It will be coming out on Wednesday, June the 8th. And actual final order cutoff for issue 1, you can still order it, will be May 12th. Or no, May 10th, I'm sorry.
So it'll be after SpringCon has started, and yes, I still call it SpringCon because I'm the one who named it that, damn it.
I still call it SpringCon too. I always refer to it as that. I don't think I'll ever be able to not to call it that.
But what sort of things will you guys have at the convention for people who drop by your table?
Oh my, we will have all sorts of good stuff. I know Steve will probably be having, plenty of copies of Athena Volataire trades, probably, won't you, Steve?
Yes.
So I know I will have different comics. But the one thing we will actually have a convention exclusive copy of Ghoul Scouts #1. It's got a different cover than the standard #1 that will be coming out, and people will be able to pick that up from us, and we will happily be signing those for them if they are so inclined. I believe too we're also going to work on a little free coloring page for the little ones to take with them.
Cool. That seems to be a big thing now. I'm seeing a lot of the creators who are coming to SpringCon are going to have either coloring pages, or a few who are actually putting together coloring books that they'll be selling. Makes me happy because comics have been computer colored for so long. It'll be neat to see people actually coloring them normal. So, Mark, while we got you here, I would like some good MSP Minnesota Comic Book Association stories.
Oh my.
Oh my.
And then Steve, while he's regaling us with stories about the Minnesota convention, you're from Central Illinois.
Yes.
Are there any... I left Peoria before there were conventions, and I know that you're within driving distance. Have they had conventions in Peoria? Have they tried it? Have they been miserable failures or mild successes?
Well, why don't I answer that stuff after Mark regales us with MSP stories?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I still remember. Let's see. One of the earliest times at a SpringCon where this was probably before the poker games started. And I remember being in one of the...
Unofficially started, because they were technically not part of the con itself.
That's true. Those were the...
alleged poker game.
The after-hours private card-playing events.
That may or may not happen for legal reasons.
That's true. So, but I remember we were in one of the bigger rooms there at the Thunderbird that they would have up, and I'm trying to, and I remember at the time we were all just like, people were like working on very little sleep and lots of alcohol, and the whole subject of starting up a new comic line came about based on biblical characters.
Oh God!
And it became unofficially known as Yahweh Comics. and we had talked about how it was Jesus and his fighting apostolistic commandos, which was going to be drawn by Jim Lee, of course. Then you had like the adventures of Mary Magdalene, which would have been drawn by Adam Hughes, because she would have been definitely an Adam Hughes babe. And we were having like thoughts of like, okay, well, you'd have to have Neil Gaiman, writing the Book of Genesis, and then it was like Grant Morrison. I can't remember what Grant Morrison was going to be. It was like, well, Grant Morrison will have to write like, lots of books of the Old Testament, because they're all down and dirty, and he'd be totally into that. It was just weird and bizarre, and we'd still every now, it's like the next year, it would be like, a bunch of people would be like, from the con, be like, so, you got started on that Yahweh comics yet? That was like the running gag for probably like 10 years.
Wow.
It was like, all right, it's like, have you started that Yahweh comic stuff yet? And I'd be like, still waiting on a script, man. Still waiting on a script. But it was just like, you'd have a group of like comic people together in a room, and you'd just be like, the weirdest crap would suddenly start popping out. But I mean, those shows have just been so great over the years, and just the guests that have come. I still remember the year that Curt Swan came. That's like probably the one I remember the most, was the year he came to the show, and he was a St. Paul native, and the mayor of St. Paul had declared it Curt Swan Day that Saturday of the show. And, there was a big thing at the show about it, and I remember the whole how it used to be after the show on Sunday, the whole go out and eat and play and go bowling, and I still remember going out. We went bowling, and there's Curt Swan, 71 years old. He's got a whiskey in one hand. He's smoking a stogie. He's bowling with everybody, and he's kicking the living crap out of everybody there. And we're all like going, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Curt Swan.
That was a con. I got to have a short conversation with him because I was supposedly in charge, which meant everything that nobody else wanted to do, I had to do.
Yeah,
I got to talk to all the dealers all the time. And I got to talk with Curt Swan for a bit, and he said that drawing comics was the best job he could think of because he could be done by noon and just go to the bowling alley and hang out and chase women. And that's a man.
Yeah. Well, I still remember, and I have it above, I still remember the Superman, he did a Superman piece for the art auction, and I was fighting tooth and nail, and I won it,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it went up there. I'm like going, I want this thing, I was working for Marvel. I'm like going, okay, I'm making some decent money. I can get this thing. And I remember getting it, and he signed it to me. And I still have it. I have it framed, and it sits above my art table in my studio, and has ever since. And it says on there, it says, Mark, have a great, and then he crossed out great, and he put in super career.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's still there. And I remember, and almost every year since I won that, or at least for several, Brian Wilson, from MGM, is like going, so how much you want for that Swan piece?
Just casual, like, yeah, you probably want to get rid of it. I got a couple bucks here.
Yeah, and it was weird because last year at the show, a dealer who I hadn't seen, I can't remember who he was with, but he had said, I remember, several years ago you got the Curt Swan Superman piece. Are you interested in buying it? Because I'd like to offer like $1,200 for that. And I'm like, nope. But yeah, that's probably the one I remember the best. Cause, I mean, he was, because I sat and talked with him a little bit, on one of the nights there, and especially when he had signed the piece, and I was just like, God, this guy is just, one of the most amazing people I've ever met. I mean, this is the days when, unfortunately we had comic book, artists and creators thinking they were rock stars, and it's like, oh, I'm not associating with you. I don't know what you do. You work on blah, 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 and I'm not, I'm too good to talk to you. And here's a guy who is still, was still drawing Superman, and pretty much thought it was like the greatest thing he could possibly ever do, and felt that, anybody who would come up to talk to him about it deserved his time and attention because he knew that, what he was doing was special, and that people who, were appreciating his art deserved to be talked to and, and heard, since they were the ones who, had pretty much, gave him his career.
Well, Steve, again, I moved away from Central Illinois in 1987, and I know in Peoria there were comic shops that would last about 2-3 years. Did they ever get conventions there?
I actually did I did a show in Peoria last year, and it was really enjoyable. It was put on by the Park District. I was looking forward to going back this year for the second one because I hoped that they had, learned and gotten even bigger and better. And it happens to fall on the weekend that our book releases, and Mark and I are hitting the road to promote it. So I had to cancel. But I don't really have any interesting stories from that show. My home show that I've always viewed as such was the old Chicago ComiCon.
Yeah.
That used to take place at the Ramada, and then it later went to the Rosemont Horizon, and then it got bought by Wizard and turned into a flea market. But man, for a few years that was just that was my annual voyage, and it was
me too.
It was the best. It was the best show ever.
Remember the great days, Steve, where all you had to do was like, hey, give Nancy Ford a call, and hey, Nancy, I'd like to get a table for the show. Sure, I'll send you some information. You're all set. Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, see, I was too gutless to get a table for those things. I was working at a role-playing game company, so I would get a pro badge and mostly just spend my time stalking Steve Root or Mark Schultz, especially Root. Just sitting, in front of his table. I would be, I would think I'd be one of the first people there. I'd end up like fourth in line for his sketch, and I would just wait and watch him draw. And he would let, this was before his sketchbook got released through Kitchen Sink, and he would just let people flip through his sketchbook, and it was like the Rosetta Stone. It was the most amazing thing I had seen. It was, this is how to draw comics, all in one volume. It was, well, not just this is how to draw comics. This is how to make yourself a better artist. And I loved that show when it took place at the Ramada.
Yeah, me too. I still remember. I think one year it was like really hot, and I'd met. I think it was probably the second year I'd gone because I moved out here from California here to Wisconsin, and
what?
I went to and yeah, I know, wasn't my choice, but hey,
sorry,
but but I went to the Chicago show. I moved out here like my junior year of high school, and I went to the Chicago show, and I went like one day on a Saturday, and the following year, my parents, for a graduation gift, because they knew I wanted to draw comics, and I had already started learning from John Nyberg, who was inking Steve Root on Nexus and a bunch of other guys at the time. For my graduation gift, they paid for all 3 days of a pass to Chicago ComiCon and my hotel. And I went out this year, and I just met so many artists, and I was, showing my stuff and, and just learning from so many people. And I remember meeting Mike Gustovich, and this was when Justice Machine had just started to come out through Comico. And I loved that book. And I bought a big, double-page spread from him of this, this big battle royale, whatever. And I was talking with him, and I remember he was like, his hotel room was just a couple doors down from me, and we went on the Great Ice Hunt because it was really hot and none of the ice machines were working. And we probably walked 45 minutes through the hotel, going up almost every floor and walking them just to try and find an ice machine with ice in it. And then I can't remember who it was. And then Howard Chaykin joined us on that because he was there trying to find ice too. So I'm there walking with Gustovich and Mike and Howard Chaykin for 35 minutes as we're trying to find a damn ice machine that actually worked in this hotel.
Well, one of the things that I like about the convention here is that it's so artist focused. We don't have media guests. We don't have we don't have MMA fighters. We don't have any of that. So what I'd like to ask you guys, when you go to a convention, first off, do you keep in mind what kind of convention it is? And then what do you bring so that your convention time will be profitable? Is it sketches? Is it books? Is it what? Is it a mix? How do you approach these conventions?
I'll let you go ahead with that one first, Steve.
Oh, okay. I used to bring everything but the kitchen sink. I would bring a ton of original art, and I don't do a lot of fan art, but I have prints of some of my Athena Volataire stuff, and I would do a few prints of a few commission pieces, like a Rocketeer thing or whatever, and then my books and do sketches and stuff. But I'm so slow with sketches, so I usually have to do those as a pre-order. And original art doesn't move so much, so I've mostly just been bringing books with me and pre-orders on commissions. And it usually seems to be about the same, at each show, San Diego or C2E2 or Heroes Con or SpringCon now. So hopefully I can estimate okay. Who knows though?
I know with me, it's originally I was the same way, Steve. I'd bring, everything but the kitchen sink. And I think, especially the last couple of years, I've been trying to do more, my commission list has really gotten huge, and I've been doing more commissions at shows and not selling a huge amount of books because all I really had was, the Dr. Goyle stuff. And, it's a harder sell, especially for people to sell, to buy an unknown book, so to speak, from a publisher that they've never heard of to begin with. So, that's kind of what but lately it's kind of nice because I've the last couple of shows I've done, here in town, I just recently did the Madison Wizard World show and had a lot of people come, especially since I've been, involved with a lot of like different like comic collector forums and boards on Facebook, and it's weird to find all these people who are like, oh man, I was a fan of like your Nova stuff and the New Warrior stuff you did, and this and that. And people are like, do you have any of the art from that? And it's like, as a matter of fact, I do. And it's been really cool because I've been just finding all these different collectors who are going, man, those were such great books back in the 90s. I'm like, well, I wouldn't say they were great. I mean, they're fun to work on at the time, but I wouldn't call them great. But hey, if you think so, I'm all for that. Who am I to tell you otherwise? But yeah, I know that for SpringCon we'll have the Ghoul Scouts books. I'll be doing commissions, and we'll probably have a few other goodies here and there. But yeah, I mean it's so weird. You never really don't know what you're going to expect out of any show. I've been doing a show here in Madison the last couple of years now called GeekCon, and that's all over the place. I mean, that's Doctor Who fans, anime fans, it's anything and everything. But I've managed to do well just because with my art style being able to, it's like, sure, I'll draw this anime character for you. Sure, I'll draw a superhero character for you. It's like, oh, you want the lead singer of Korn drawn on a sketch card? Sure, why not? It was weird. I mean, really, this guy wanted me to draw like the lead singer of Korn, Jonathan Davis on a sketch card. I was happy to oblige him, and he came back the next day and had me commission like a guitarist from Dokken or something. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, dude, if you're paying me money to draw this, I will happily draw this for you. I have no qualms about doing that.
Well, in that vein, I was going to ask, what's the oddest sketch commission? Now, let's stay clean.
Yeah.
Jen Wicked's not on the show, so we're not going to be swearing like sailors. But what's the oddest commission you've been? And I don't know. The guitarist from Dawkins pretty odd.
Steve, I'll let you go first on this one.
I don't really know if I can say it.
Don't worry, Cory can edit it out.
Okay. I didn't do it.
Here we go.
Nude Princess Leia, and I said, "You mean like a cheesecakey thing? You wouldn't see her, private area or anything like that, And he said, "Well, I was thinking she would be shaved."
A Brazilian.
I ended up doing Leia dancing in the slave Leia outfit. He accepted that, but he rejected the piece because it had a minor ding in shipping. So I aided on that. But we instead of calling it slave Leia, I always refer to that story as shaved Leia. But yeah, he had put a lot of thought into what he wanted drawn.
Yeah, I think the weirdest request I ever had, and I turned it down just because it was just too off the wall, bizarre, and it's from a guy who's at the time was kind of known for wanting very odd commissions.
Joe, have you been bothering the artists again?
No, I'm easy. I just asked for Supergirl, the 1970s one.
Yeah, this was Connie Chung's head on a dog.
Hey, Mark, you told me you weren't going to talk about that. You outed me. No.
Mark?
Yeah.
I think you broke me.
and he told me, and he said the specific kind of dog too. It had to be
Oh no!
It had to be a German Shepherd. And I'm just like,
oh no.
Okay.
So you never told me you met Maury Povich.
I know, right?
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm just said, yeah, this one is. I said, you're best off probably finding somebody else to draw that.
And whoever that artist was who did draw that, you have our sympathy. And we're sorry that you're so desperate for cash. Yeah. And here I thought my request was odd when I ask people, one of my favorite characters is Grendel, and I will say, can you do a Grendel version of the character you're known for? And I've never had anybody look at me weird. Maybe I need to try harder.
Oh, there's far worse.
That'd be cool, man. I would totally be down for that. It'd be awesome.
You did. You gave me Nova as a Grendel.
Did I?
Yes.
Oh God, I don't even remember that.
Well, I'm so memorable and everything.
You were really drunk.
Blot out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. On the back, there's something about Yahweh Comics. I don't know. Well, I thought I'd talk a little about setting up for the convention because this year's going to be a little different for us. And Mark, have you filled Steve in on what it's like for the artists and such at the con?
A little bit. I mean, he had asked me, it's like, well, do we get like a table number? And I'm like, not really. It's pretty much they have a giant map, and it's like, okay, here's where we got where we pretty much put all the dealers and all the artists, and we will take you to your table, and there you go. You know, you'll be when you come in to set up, we'll take you where you got to be.
Have you told him what Howard Chaykin says is the great selling point for our convention?
I don't think so. No.
Howard Chaykin, when he is asked about our convention, and I have heard this story more than once, will tell people, you know what they give you for dinner on Saturday? Yes. Steak! And then, you know what else you get on Saturday? More steak!
I don't know if this is the right time to tell you this. I'm a vegetarian.
Same here.
Okay.
They take care of us.
You got potatoes.
Okay.
There's potatoes and coleslaw for you.
Hey, they have veggie burgers.
Okay.
They have veggie burgers. But the setup is on Friday.
We hang out with some weird people, Mark.
And this here podcast will be live streaming the entire con.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm crazy. I will be talking the entire convention. We'll be having people over. We'll be doing this. Mark, how much have you paid for tables at the MSP cons over the years?
Nothing. Ever.
And that's how it is for creators. We have, like 300 creators this year, Joe? Is that what I heard?
We stopped counting once we outdid Small Press Expo.
Yep.
Damn.
We have, we pretty much, if you are an indie creator here in the Twin Cities, you get a table. A lot of the really upper Midwest, if you call and say you'd like a table, we're going to give you one. It's very artist-focused. Joe's daughters have in the past fed people. Yeah,
Nick bought him a nice cart. They push around stuff, and because up on the second floor they have kind of a retreat that you can go up, and they'll have soda and water and snacks and things, so you just get away from the crowd. Although we know you independent guys, you're going to stick at that table nonstop because you got business to do.
I am the worst kind of booth rat at a show. I probably have lost friends because it's like, oh, sure, I'll come see you, I promise. And, it's like a degenerate gambler in Vegas. I don't want to leave. This could be the one. Spielberg could walk
I'm
up.
The same way, but that's the reason that for me is a lot of that is like, is I'm so busy at the con. I mean, that's the one thing that's so great about this show, Steve, is that, I've been going enough years that I actually have a regular crowd that comes by, like, right at the beginning of the show on Saturday morning, and they're like, okay, here's what we want this year,
Well, that brings up a question. It's a con, it's a convention, it's got a lot of fun stuff. What would you guys be looking for to add to your collections? Is there a certain artist you want to meet? Is there certain items you're looking for? Or are you pretty much just there as a professional?
I always wish that I could shop at shows, but I have just been strapped for too long. So One day maybe I will. I try not to get too bummed out about it. But yeah, I mean, gosh, I'd love to, go crazy and buy a bunch of original art or sketchbooks, but I can never afford it. I've got to bring money home. We're looking at buying a new house. So, man, I'm Captain Bring Down. Mark, buy stuff. tell the tales of happiness.
I used to be really big on just going. I used to love to go through like quarter boxes and 10 for $1 boxes just because I just find really cool old stuff. I remember just finding like a handful of like really crummy, a bunch of like old Fantastic Four comics. I mean, in shapes of like, there's no way, anyways, this was before the whole CGC thing of grading and whatnot. But it was like, oh, hey, these are a quarter a piece? Okay, I'll take a bunch of these Jack Kirby Fantastic Fours. Thank you, Oh, hey, here's a bunch of Nestor Redondo Swamp Things in really good conditions. Oh, you only want $1 a piece for them? Okay, sure. Here's $8. I mean, I used to get lots of comics, but that's when also I was, collecting a lot more. Now, I don't really get too much on maybe I'll go out and it's like, hey, this, person I know has got this, trade collection of, the stuff they're doing. Maybe I'll buy that, or maybe I'll get something for, my stepdaughter or something like that. But I mean, there's really not a whole lot out there, that I really collect anymore. I've been more recently on a purge of all the stuff I've had. It's like, yeah, I need to get rid of this because I need to get rid of this.
That's something that I find very interesting. It's more and more of the older collectors I'm reading online where I'm getting rid of stuff. And even Bo Smith, Joe had an article by Bo Smith about how even he is starting to get rid of stuff.
Oh, my.
I know.
Bo's got a lot of stuff.
And I've talked about how I like digital because I don't want to have boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff to go through. Steve, you did webcomics forever.
Yeah.
And is Ghoul Scouts going to be available digitally? And how do you see the two worlds being different?
Yeah, it's going to. I'm 99.99999% sure that it's going to be on Comixology because all the Action Lab stuff is. And then, it's so weird because I did webcomics in the early 2000s. And back then, you couldn't get anyone, from major comic sites to look at your webcomic or do a feature on it or anything. So, I mean, that's really changed. Now I feel like there's not a big difference between webcomics and print comics or even self-publishing through Kickstarter. Now, when you've got guys like, Mike Norton doing a webcomic or, Gene Ha doing a Kickstarter, all these things are just now viable delivery systems to get your comic out there. Heck, you've got Chris Robinson doing direct to digital first with Monkey Brain. So I don't know, it's very cool. I could not have imagined it finally breaking through like this, if you'd asked me about it when I was getting rejected from asking people to look at a webcomic in 2001, 2002. So it's pretty cool.
And Mark, I know Dr. Goyle, that company was really pushed their digital as well. Do you draw any differently if it's going to be on a computer screen versus in print?
No, I don't, because I mean they take care of all the resizing and formatting for the digital stuff. I just okay, here's my standard comic size art paper. I'm just going to draw on that and let them figure it out. I'm just like, dude, I'm just here to draw this thing, man. I ain't here to do all this other fancy stuff. That's why I let Steve handle all the the sizing and production stuff, because I'm just like going, you want this to look good and be readable, right? Okay, that's why you're going to do this.
I enjoy doing that stuff, though.
Well, speaking of stuff that's readable, this here podcast has sponsors, believe it or not, and here they are.
Believe it or not, kids, this silliness has actual real sponsors. Our first sponsor is Graze.com. Graze gives you healthy snacks, sent to your house. You can have them delivered weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and your first box is free if you use the code CORYS3R5B. Our second sponsor is Bombas. Bombas socks are some of the best socks in the world, and remember, for every pair you buy, they donate a pair to a homeless shelter or other worthy cause. Just go to bombas.gotocloud.org/SF30. That's right, those are our ads. Go check out our sponsors.
Joe,
Chesterfield.
After we do the ads, we talk about what Joe is doing on the eBays. Joe, what are you doing on the eBays?
Ironically enough, downsizing. One of the things you talked about earlier was the charity booth that you and I were heavily involved in, and now my daughters have taken over. The three charities we're working with: Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, what's it called, Bikers
Against Abuse?
Yep, Minnesota chapter, and then the Minnesota Lupus Foundation. Basically, anything that's brought in at the charity table, it's fun because Cory and I we flip the tables on everybody. Usually you go to a booth and you're like, they have prices and you negotiate down. Cory and I are a little different on this one. We know you've got red in your ledger. You've got something to atone for. You need some good karma. Knowing that 100% of the proceeds we raise is going to go to our charities, you tell me what it's worth. Now, there are a few things, like if somebody donates some really good books, we'll put a minimum price on, but most of the time we let you set the price. And what I'm doing is I'm taking, I admit it, I had a problem. I loved variant covers. That's why when you said you're going to have a variant cover, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be first in line. Get me one of them.
Well, here's what's even better, Joe, is every issue of Ghoul Scouts has 3 different covers to it.
Oh, you're killing me. Just take my money. Take it right now.
And they're all really good.
I know. I don't even know which one I ordered. I might have just gone nuts and ordered all 3. Because I like to support my friends and people I know. But what I'm doing is I'm going through, I'm on my eBay site. I've got variant covers ranging from $5 to, well, most of the expensive ones, oddly enough, sell because I always sell them below what eBay's got them at. But in the next week or so, I'm going to be purging them out. So if you see something you like, now's the time to grab it because I'll probably just take it out, take a tax write-off, and donate it to charity. So if you're waiting, if you see something you like, now's the time. And what's even better, I always do the buy it now option. So yeah, sure, I got it at $500, but you want to offer me 10? Hey, if I've had enough drinks, right like this one here, I may go for it. So again, Crazy, Krayz. And now comes the fun part of the show.
Well, hold on. Yeah, we talked about your online sales. We have guests in our house.
In the house!
Steve?
Yeah?
What sort of stuff are you selling online and where can people buy it?
If you want to go to stevebryantcomics.com, I have a whole page on commissions. So not just for SpringCon, but I'll do commissions through the mail. $50 for a 9x12 single figure shot, 11x17, and these are inked. 11x17 is 100, and it goes up from there. So I have slots still open for SpringCon. So that's the main thing I'm selling. And a song. A song in my heart.
Which you can
Songs
do.
for Sale by Steve Bryant. Catch it weekly on WNPR Network.
So that's me.
And Mark? What about you? What are you selling online that people can jump on?
Well, let's see. I'm almost always open for commissions, and yes, I'm still taking on pre-show commissions for SpringCon as well. People can go to www.steg-art.com. Contact me there. I'm going to be doing all sorts of pre-show commissions, and I'm thinking about putting some of my old originals up, but it's kind of a hassle, and I've got already comics to draw on, full-time job, and family stuff to do. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. It all depends on how ambitious I get. But, people can always, shoot me an email, say, hey, I'd like this drawn. Would you draw it? And I might go, yeah, sure, probably. As long as it's not like, Connie Chung's head on a dog, I think I'd be.
Damn it. He's had enough of that.
And, Steve, where can people pick up the Athena Volataire book online?
It's not available through Comixology right now. It will be, because we're moving to Action Lab. So you can pre-order it. I believe it'll come out through Action Lab in September. No, October. No, I'm sorry, September of this year.
December.
We're gonna re-release in
November.
September. But
Last month.
I think some comic shops still have them, and I know you can get it on like Amazon and in stock trades. But yeah, we're gonna resolicit for a September release, and then more Athena Volataire, I think, starting in October.
And Dr. Goyle, that's probably available somewhere too, isn't it, Mark?
I usually have copies with me at shows, and also I think you can still get it through Hound Comics. I don't know. It'll my situation. I don't want to say too much, but I might. That might be changing. I don't know yet. But yeah, I'm hoping to actually do some more new stuff with Dr. Goyle later this year, and turn into a web comic, and then do like a collection of it later. It's I'm still working on some ideas for that. So we'll see what happens with that.
You guys got all kinds of stuff out there.
Yeah,
they're out for all your money,
they're
folks.
Professionals.
Hey,
Unlike
let's not
us.
get crazy though. I don't think that term applies to me.
Don't try drawing comics at home, kids. We are professionals. No, wait. Continue to draw comics at home.
Yeah, just don't go to the coffee house and draw them, because that's kind of a hipster thing. Just don't.
Okay.
Leave the coffee houses for those of us with our laptops writing screenplays.
It's okay to do your layouts at coffee houses. That's cool. But don't be actually drawing pages. I mean, come on. That's just crazy talk.
Okay, Joe, now you can do your segue.
Well, I don't know if I want to now.
You've got a segue?
Yeah, basically, at the end of every show, we have a section called Freaking and Geeking, where freaking you talk about the things that are bothering you, and geeking things that have you excited. And, of course, right now my freaking is that Cory cut me off. So, yep, I'm just going to sit here and play with my bubble wrap and just ignore you guys for a while. So, Cory, show them how it's done. What are you freaking on?
I don't have a lot.
Thank God.
Dark Horse has announced that Creepy is ending, which was a wonderful black and white anthology using the name of the 70s, the magazine from the 70s and the 60s and everything. And the culprit is, as always, low sales. They also published Eerie, which they have not announced a last issue, but I'm betting that since Eerie didn't sell as well as Creepy, it's probably gone too. And I'm freaking because these were kind of the last anthologies that were floating around out there. I love anthology comics. I like horror anthologies because you get short stories and you don't have to read 6, 7, 8, 9 books to get a complete story. You get 3 or 4 stories in one. You get a lot of artists who are trying new stuff. You get a mix of classic artists and newer artists. I should have known the end was coming, because whenever there's a horror anthology, if they start running a lot of stories by Joe Lansdale, who I like, they usually don't last much longer. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why he's the kiss of death for anthologies, but he is. The other thing I'm kind of freaking on is there are people who are selling their they've done these beautiful, I forget what they're called, the artist books, which is basically they take the art at the size the artist draws.
Oh, the artist editions, yeah.
Yes, and there are some EC ones out there, and there are people selling them, and the prices make me cringe because it makes me realize I will never own these. There's a Jack Davis one that I saw on eBay for a few $100s. There's a Graham Ingalls one that I probably would need to wear a mask on my face so I didn't drool all over it, and a Wally Wood one.
I
have
the Wally Wood one.
Me too.
Oh, I have seen the Mad one, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful, and I know I'm never going to be able to afford these books.
Yeah, I have a few artist editions, and because for me, I saw them, I'm like, okay, there's ones I need to have, and the Wally Wood one was a big one for me, and I missed out when they did when it was first released, and thankfully they did a second printing of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm in on that one, But I mean, I have like a Will Eisner Spirit one, which is fantastic. But I think one of my absolute favorites is they did a Sergio Aragonés Gru edition.
Yes.
And that thing is just if you're looking to get into cartooning, that thing is just amazing. I mean, you look at he has like panels that are maybe like 3 inches by 4 inches. And it's like, oh look, here's a herd of cows, and he's drawn every individual cow. And you can see where he was, doing stuff with his pen quill on the side of the page to get like a better line out of it. And he's got, and little doodles on the sides of the pages. And that's probably my favorite one of all the artist editions other than the Wally Wood one, because it's just ridiculously good.
Well, Steve, what are you freaking on, if anything?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm freaking that I thought Joe had a Segway and that I could ask him for a ride on it at the con. I'm really disappointed.
I can totally see Steve.
Segway.
I can see Steve cruising on a Segway on the upper floor there.
And they've got that long down ramp, and all the way up. Man, he could really get some speed on that sucker.
So
he'd be doing the slalom through the poles,
So yeah, I'm freaking about that. Well, you mentioned the artist editions, and yeah, I have a problem.
Oh no!
That's always my go-to for birthday and Christmas.
Yeah.
So, well,
I know which one you want this year in a bad sort of way, Steve.
Which one?
You want that Al Williamson Star.
Oh yes. But like when they first came out, I didn't realize it was going to be a series, and I may have bought 2 of the Dave Stevens one to treasure and covet, and one that lived on my drafting table open for like a year and a half.
Oh, you want to sell that one, Steve?
No, but yeah, I've got the Stevens, I've got the Kubert Tarzan one.
Yep, I got that. That's a great one.
The Byrne Fantastic Four, the Wood one, the Mark Schultz one, of course. The first Ramita Spider-Man, Marvel covers.
I really wanted the Hellboy one, the Mignola Hellboy one.
Yeah, I don't have that yet. I got the Mazzucchelli Daredevil, and then this last Christmas I got Mr. Miracle. And for my birthday last year, my artist friends chipped in and got me the Commandy one.
Oh, I really want the Commandy one.
And they're putting out a second one.
Yes, I saw. Yeah, they're doing a second Commandy.
Oh, boy!
Another one I have that's really good. That wasn't an IDW one, but I think it was done through Atlas. But they released the Archie Goodwin, Walt Simonson comic adaptation of Alien.
Oh yeah, I wanted to get that.
And it's got all sorts of different little notes and stuff in it. Stuff that about that Archie was writing this. It's really good.
On my way to the con, I'm gonna just live in your studio for about 3 hours. But no, if you want to talk about other stuff, I'm freaking out about. I am in constant awe of the art. Well, not just the art, but the whole package on Velvet from Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting and Elizabeth Breitweiser. It's the most stunning comic on the stands for my money. I just love that book.
I've heard it's just gorgeous as hell. I mean, I've seen a few things that Epting posts on Twitter, here and there.
Yeah.
And it's just oh.
No, pick up the trades when you have, 20, 25 extra bucks. Brubaker, the story he's delivering on it, and between Epting and Elizabeth, it's just so beautiful.
She is so crazy good.
They both are.
Oh, well, I still have I remember the first time I went to C2E2 was the second year. I actually had pre-ordered a commission from Mitch Breitweiser of a Hawkman, and Betty colored it.
Oh, you scored.
I didn't even know that it was going to be like, I thought he was just going to throw down, do it in ink, and she ended up throwing like some colored washes on it herself, and I'm just like, oh yeah.
Everything Brubaker's doing, I fall deeply in love with. His stuff over at Image. I loved his stuff at DC. I really loved his stuff at Marvel. And now at Image, he's like kicked it up even another notch.
Absolutely.
To where he's one of those people who I don't care what it is. He could write about goats, and I would be, yeah, I'm down. I'll read that. That's got to be good because it's Brubaker. It's got to be good. Mark, what are you freaking on?
Oh, well, we already heard what I was geeking on. Freaking on, I don't know. I think I want to kind of touch on this, and it's been really, probably a lot of people have been talking about this week. Just what is with people just being absolute jerks to people just because they don't like the same things? That is just getting ridiculous. Especially like, with people in fandom, it's like, oh, I don't care for this character, or I don't really care for what's going on here, and it's all of a sudden it's like, what's wrong with you? You suck. You go do something else. Get out. And it's just getting just ridiculous to the fact where people are being like threatened and bullied and excluded just because they're not of the same mindset. It's like, okay, this comics, movie, whatever fandom is huge. It's like there's room for everybody. So quit being a douche nozzle and just like your stuff, let somebody else like their stuff, and just be happy with that. It drives me nuts. Every day you just see, especially, online, it's become so much more prevalent, and it's like, it just drives me crazy that people just can't seem to let anyone else enjoy something.
I think it's always been there. But now with Facebook, because everybody's on Facebook, you're seeing a lot more of it. Me, I'm a veteran of the MST3K Mike versus Joel wars, where there were friendships of people who grew up together who, over those flame wars online, would not talk to each other ever again.
Wow.
And because of Facebook, it's getting so much bigger, and
between Facebook and Twitter and and Tumblr, it's like, oh my God, people.
It's almost as if you like this, well, that's an affront to me. I just because I don't like something, it's not for me. And I always think back to when my son was very small, up until like age 3. Barney was great until age 4, and then it's terrible. And then he had a younger brother, and he would get mad that his younger brother wanted to watch Barney. And as a dad, you kind of have to learn it's okay for him to watch that. It's just not for you anymore. You have stuff for you, and he has stuff for him. And I almost think that these people who get all upset about it should probably have 2 children and learn how to deal with the fact that your children aren't all going to like the same thing.
Oh, exactly.
Joe has 2 kids, but they both pretty much all like the same thing, right, Joe?
Yeah, pretty much all my comics.
The next part of Freaking and Geeking, of course, is geeking. Joe, what are you geeking about?
Oh, I don't know. I got my box day from Discount Comic Book Service. I went over that. I ordered Ghoul Scouts. That's June. I gotta wait. What the hell? Free Comic Book Day is coming. MCBA ComiCon is coming. I'm in freak overload. Civil War is starting, which is actually really funny to say because normally you really don't want a Civil War, but by God, I want one. I'm just geeked to this. I'm having a geekgasm, and I still got bubble wrap. See? Cory, what are you geeking on? What's got you happy and going and all sorts of smiley faces and stuff like that?
Well, first off, this here podcast, episode 247. You know what that means, Joe?
Next is 240. Dang it! I had it a minute ago.
Carry the one.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Carry
I'll
the
get
one.
there. 4.
Joe, I told you there would be math.
I gotta start over. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Move the death
Go on, I'll figure it out.
We are closing in on episode 250.
What happened at 248 and 249?
They're coming next week.
Oh, boy, so much for spoilers around here.
But we've got all sorts of stuff going on. We've got special episodes between now and 250. We're doing a free comic book day episode. We've got guests in the house. We're doing the SpringCon episode itself. We've been doing this for 6.5 years. We've hit episode 250. I'm looking at podcasts that have been around for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. We've got more episodes than them. We are rapidly closing in. We will soon eclipse my favorite podcast in the whole wide world, WrestleCrap Radio, which had episode 256 about a month and a half ago. So, and listen, Joe keeps posting the early ones, the ones before I knew how to edit out the sniffles and the coughs and stuff.
Sorry.
And I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited that this little thing that Joe and I started doing, because it was pretty much what the hell. I now do 4 podcasts. A 5th one is coming by the end of the year that's going to eat my brain, and pretty excited about it. The other thing I'm geeking on, MSP ComiCon.
Woo!
I was there at the first one. I was involved in creating this damn thing. And every year it's kind of like a family reunion. And we're going to be live streaming the whole thing. We've got all sorts of stuff. I would say that my best friends in the whole world show up there. And every year, Mark and I, we've known each other 20-some years.
God.
We get to talk at the convention.
I know.
And sometimes it's just, hi, how are you? Real busy. How are you? Real busy.
No doubt. Well, that's the one thing is I keep, every time I tell, meet new creators at shows and, make new friendships with other artists and stuff, I tell them, it's like, I said, if you're ever going to do a show, I said, you need to go to SpringCon. I just tell them flat out, it's like, it's my favorite show of the year. And I just tell them, it's like, first off, tables are free, which is awesome for anybody who goes to cons. I mean, that's usually the biggest expense, you have at a show, other than a hotel if you're, having to travel. But I tell them all, the main reason I like to go there is that the people who run the con treat everybody like they're the greatest creator in the world. Hands down. It doesn't matter if you're making, your own mini comic that you're stapling, the night before the show, staying up till 2 a.m. so you can have, 30 copies ready, or if you're, got your newest project by, Marvel, DC, whoever out, everybody's on the same page, treated exactly like they're treated with, like, the best care ever. I mean, the show is just awesome. And that's why every year I'm just, like, excited to go. It's, seeing everybody over, that I've known over the years and seeing, artist friends and catching up with people. And it is just amazing to go to. And I can never say enough good things about it. I still say it's my favorite show. And that's why I've been doing it for, 20-some years.
And then the last thing I am geeking on is a trade paperback that Marvel is publishing that I never, ever, ever thought I would ever see ever. In the new previews, I tend to, if there's a Kirby reprint, my eyes just kind of go to it. They are reprinting the entire run of Kirby and Ditko's Machine Man.
Yes, I saw that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That's awesome.
And the cool thing is Kirby did the first 10 issues, and it's 70s Kirby, which I know some people don't like, but I love. I love 70s Kirby. His second run at Marvel, that was when I was reading comics, and it's all new Kirby. And then it got canceled with issue 10, and then I don't know how long it was, but it came back, And it's by Ditko. And Ditko created all these amazingly weird villains for it. And it just reminded me, I was reading the Marvel reprints, and then, here's new Ditko, and it was, this could have fit back in the Silver Age. And I've got all the comics, but I'm gonna love having that big thick trade paperback that I can put on the shelf with my other Kirby stuff, so that anytime I want, it's I need me a little fix.
I tell you, if they were smart, they would have thrown in the Herb Trimpe Barry Windsor Smith miniseries in that, and would have had the complete Machine Man omnibus there.
I think they might publish that as a separate trade paperback, because they did publish that as a trade paperback in the 80s. And that was a strange one, because I think Trimpe, he penciled the first couple, and then Barry Windsor Smith was inking it, and then by the last issue, he had completely taken over the art.
I read an interview with Smith around that time, and he said he asked Trimpe to help him with the layouts, because it was when he was kind of finding his way back into comics after all the Gore Blimey Press stuff.
Okay. But, yeah, Machine Man, and there's a character that Marvel's completely changed, and I still enjoy. I like the Warren Ellis version of Machine Man, but that's the stuff I'm geeking on. Steve?
Oh, I prematurely geeked earlier when I mentioned Velvet. So
Geek some more.
You can geek on more than one thing. I mean, we're not, there's been times we've geeked on for hours and hours, just to, mostly torque off Cory, because he's got to edit all this stuff.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of what else I've been reading lately that's been... I got a bunch of trades for my birthday a while back, and for Christmas, so I'm still working through those stacks. Geez, let me look. Okay, I'm looking at my pile of stuff I've recently read. Invisible Republic by Gabriel Hardman and Karina Betko.
Oh, I still got to pick that up.
Oh, dude, it's wonderful. It's terrific. It's smart science fiction. And the way Gabriel's rendering in that, you know how like sometimes you can look at somebody's work during a certain period and go, I never saw a bridge between artist A and artist B, but this guy suddenly gives me one. Because in the past with Gabriel's work, I could see like some Toth with some of the ink dabbing, and I could see some Kubert at times, but I feel like there's almost a Simonson quality to the way he's rendering in this. Kind of those kind of zigzaggy render lines with a crow quill.
Oh,
if that makes any sense. Do you know the kind of line I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's been fascinating because this looks like his artwork, but it also looks removed from what I'm used to seeing from him. So that's been just a fascinating read.
Plus, they just got nominated for a Hugo, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. So it's doubly worth your time. And I finally caught up with the 4th volume of Battle Pug, which is still just a hell of a lot of fun, from Mike Norton and Chris Crank. So those are the two things that come to mind most readily. And I geek out over artwork when Mark sends it to me because it looks pretty freaking cool.
Ooh.
Mark, what are you geeking out about?
Oh, God, there's so much good stuff. I'm getting my geek on for Captain America: Civil War. I cannot wait. Unfortunately for me, with how busy I am and with family stuff, I probably won't end up seeing it until the weekend of SpringCon. That's usually, for me, the weekend of SpringCon. It's not just about the con, but I usually always hang out with Chris Jones and probably usually Steve Jones, and we always usually go and catch a movie the night before the show, and it's usually whatever cool, geek Marvel movie or whatever other movie is out, is playing at that time. So I might not see it till then, but I'm going to try and see it as soon as I can. Just being the diehard Cap fan that I am, I cannot wait for this movie. So it's all, I've been avoiding the little clips and 8,000 little trailers out there as much as I can, just so, I want to have the whole thing in front of me. But between that and also I'm just geeking out on the fact that, the con's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have, copies of the book, and, so many of the people who I know have been asking me, it's like, oh, I want to see the book, I want to see the book. It's like, well, here's your chance, it's, I'm excited about it. And lining up all the different cool appearances that Steve and I and Jason will be at over the course of the next couple of months as the books, the issues come out.
Now, where can we follow your appearances so that people will know if you come to their town, they can show up and ask for those sketches that you'll be talking about next time you're on the show?
Well, we've made a fan page on Facebook. It's called Ghoul Scouts Fans. We just recently put up a bunch of the appearances that we'll be at over the next 2 months, and we are adding more as we kind of get them arranged and finalized. But we will be up there in the Twin Cities the weekend of its release. We will be at Source Comic and Games there on the 11th of June.
Have you been to the new Source?
I have. It's a pretty awesome store.
It is huge.
Yeah, it is.
It is huge.
Yeah, it's a huge Among Us store, so I'm looking forward to that signing. And then the following day, Sunday, we'll be back. We're back down here in Madison, where I live, and we'll be at Westfield's East and West Side stores signing.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be making our trek across 2 states that weekend.
And yeah, we've been trying to nail down more shops. So if you have a shop and are curious about this, you can email Mark or me or Cory, and he'll send you to us.
I will forward it on. Well, believe it or not, kids, you have listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half.
Thank you.
Great googly moogly.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Hang on. Wait for it. It is only when a mosquito lands on your testicles that you realize there is always a way to solve problems without using violence.
Good point there. That's an important safety tip.
Now, usually we'll ask someone to hit their music, but so we'll let you two decide. What type of music should we finish this here show with?